Okay, that argument I've heard the most, ironically, from people who don't speak Arabic. So it's the pot calling the kettle black. It's puzzling to me. Like, I take a second and I'm like, did you just really say that to someone? Like, who's talking? Yes, they have a point, but it works against them too. You don't know the real words in Arabic. How can you have such confidence that your translation from, say, I don't know, like Yaqeen Institute, for example?
Unless you're criticizing the Arabic itself, then you need to know Arabic. But if you're just making an argument about the content of the religion, you don't need to know Arabic to know Muhammad killed all the boys of Banu Qurayza that were, had pubic hair. There is a point in knowing the original meanings of the words, but it's not quite accessible for most people. And people convert to Islam without knowing Arabic. People read the Quran in English. Famous converts, Cat Stevens, read the Quran in English. I mean, most converts in America don't know Arabic. How many converts to Islam know Arabic? I'm wondering. Probably like a very small number, because what I've seen is that Arabic speakers, non-Muslims, are some of the most antagonistic against Islam than anyone else. Christian Arabs, like Christian Prince, they despise Islam more than white non-Muslims, right? What's the reason for that? I think they understand it and they have access to a lot more literature where, non-Muslims are called donkeys openly. And
you make a really good point. That's not at all to say that people who don't speak Arabic can't know Islam. Again, you take the trusted tafsirs and you can understand English, the meaning is still there. I think that's a very bad cop-out to say, the beauty of the Quran, you have to understand it in Arabic. Well, in that case, it's not really a miracle, is it? More Muslims don't speak Arabic than ones that do. Again, it's a point against Islam, that God should have revealed Islam in many languages or something that everyone can understand. Talk about suspiciously giving a monopoly to Arabs, or whoever that tribe was.
It would have helped even more so because of the fact that ancient Arabic didn't have dots. There's no vowels. Never mind the vowels, fatha, kasra, dhamma. There wasn't even the dots on the noon and the ta and the ya, when they were writing it. And eventually they added it, of course, because they needed it. But the language choice is a very poor choice for the final revelation. And as we know, the Quran is primarily an oral recitation. And as we know, there are multiple variant readings of the Quran, and there are actually different words in some of the variants. The phrases are in different order, and some of the differences even ended up changing the fiqh or the ruling of Islam.
Now that you mentioned that, there's differences between the word kill and fight. There's a word qatil and qatal, or qtulu. There's a difference of one letter that could mean either fight the disbelievers, that could be intellectually, physically, whatever, and kill them. There's a huge difference there. That's not something I was aware of till a year ago. Again, these things are not taught. I've seen a mushaf or an old manuscript with no tashkil and no dots or anything. And I asked my mother about it as a child, and she was like, oh, well, that's how they wrote, and they all knew what it meant. But then I had no idea how that branched out in so many mushafs and whatnot.
The funniest comeback is, but the Quran is memorized by millions of people. They don't realize that the Quran that you memorized is obviously the one that's already been corrupted, so to speak, as one of the variants. So it's how does that help? Because we know there's variant readings from the Sana manuscript. We know that there's other codexes that we found that have big differences. So obviously, just before this whole thing happened with Uthman, there was a lot of change going on, and this change stabilized at some point. And what we have today is a stabilized edition, but there's still problems, right? The problems haven't gone away.
No, that is something that is being more explored now with scholars, and I'm not talking about Muslim scholars because they don't like to reveal that information, as we've all heard recently. But I'm very happy that these things are coming to light because, again, I as a Muslim had no clue. Now I remember as I'm telling you these things. One time I was a kid and I picked up a mushaf in the masjid to read before I start prayer. Because again, I was enthusiastic. I was there early. I prayed the sunnah and I sat down. And I realized, oh, that looks a little different. It was a different cover color, and then inside the letters were different. And I was told, oh, that's just they pronounce things differently. But for a second in my head, I was like, wait, are you allowed to write a Quran in a different way like that?